Before tanks, before trucks, before the thunder of modern artillery, there was a sound that shook the earth in silence. Not the clash of swords, not the cries of men, but the steady rhythm of thousands of sandals grinding into stone. Step, step, step. Now imagine this. You stand at the rear of a moving column so vast, so endless, that the front has already vanished over the horizon. What you see is not just soldiers, but a city in motion. A city with kitchens smoking at dawn, with medics binding wounds as they march, with engineers dragging tools, with merchants selling bread and wine even as dust clouds rise. This is not an army. It is a creature made of flesh, steel, and discipline. It breathes, it eats, it grows, and when it stops, it builds a fortress before it sleeps. This is the Roman legion on the march, and the question for you is not what it was, but whether you could survive a single day inside its iron stomach.
The Romans called it the agmen, the marching column. To their allies, it was protection. To their enemies, it was a shadow that swallowed the horizon. To the soldier, it was a crucible, a test of loyalty, strength, and silence. The historian Polybius once described it as a moving wall of flesh. But to those who walked within it, it was more than a wall. It was a machine of survival. Every man a gear, every mule a wheel, every step a calculated beat in the empire's heartbeat. By the height of the empire, a marching force could reach 25,000 souls. Not just legionaries, but archers from Syria, cavalry from Numidia, slaves, cooks, blacksmiths, servants, merchants, and beasts of burden. A Roman column could stretch 12 kilometers down a road, its head already crossing a river, its tail still tearing down last night's tents. From above, it would look like a serpent of iron and dust, sliding endlessly across valleys and mountains. From within, it felt like walking inside a living empire. And this was not a rare display. This was routine, the daily heartbeat of Roman conquest. For the legion did not wait for cities, it carried its own. A marching camp every night, a fortress by morning, a war machine forever in motion. And so, for the next hour, you will step inside this beast. Hour by hour, step by step, from the silent scouts before dawn to the whispered passwords of midnight watch. This is not just the story of how Rome marched. It is the story of how Rome ruled the world. The Roman march did not begin as perfection. It began in fear. In the earliest days of the Republic, Rome was not yet an empire. It was a small city surrounded by enemies. Etruscans to the north, Samnites in the hills, Greeks on the southern coast. Every step beyond its walls was a gamble. When an early Roman army set out, it was fragile, clumsy, vulnerable. Columns broke apart, supplies ran thin, soldiers grew restless. A marching army could die before it ever reached the battlefield, not by swords, but by hunger, exhaustion, or ambush. And Rome learned this lesson in blood. During the Samnite Wars, Roman columns were trapped in narrow valleys, forced to surrender when their formations collapsed under the weight of poor planning. In those years, every misstep cost hundreds of lives, and worse, Rome's reputation. But the Romans had something their enemies did not: an obsession with order. They studied their failures like wounds to be dissected. Every defeat carved a new law into their military memory. Every ambush became a page in a manual. The great historian Livy tells us of the Caudine Forks in 321 BCE, where an entire Roman army was humiliated, stripped of its weapons, and forced to crawl beneath a yoke of spears. It was a defeat that scarred the Roman soul. And from that scar, a new philosophy was born. Rome would never again let its armies march without discipline.
Step by step, century by century, the march became ritual. Scouts, speculatores, would move ahead at dawn, silent as ghosts. Engineers and surveyors would follow, measuring ground, calculating rivers. Heavy infantry marched in precise blocks, each man knowing his place. Cavalry guarded the wings like hawks. The baggage train, mules, wagons, slaves, flowed like blood through the spine. And in the rear, officers rode, watching, ensuring no one broke pace. But this was not simply logistics. It was psychology. The march was designed to break the soldier, then rebuild him. The weight of his pack could reach 30 kilograms. Armor, shield, rations, tools, weapons, enough to crush a weaker man. Yet Rome demanded he walk 20 miles under that burden, every day. Why? Because a soldier who could survive the march was a soldier who could survive the battle.
By the late Republic, the Roman march was no longer a column. It was a creature, alive, breathing, feeding. Picture it, the clatter of iron-shod sandals striking stone in unison, the smell of sweat, leather, and mule dung thick in the air, the creak of wagons, the snort of horses, the bark of an officer, the faint chant of men keeping step. To outsiders, it was terrifying. To insiders, it was comforting, for within the endless rhythm, there was safety. A legion that marched together was a legion that lived together, and a legion that lived together conquered together. The order comes at dawn. The horn sounds once, long and low. Your eyes snap open. The ground beneath you is still cold with dew, but the camp is already alive. Mules bray, men curse, fires hiss as they are stamped out. You rise quickly because hesitation is punished. Your pack awaits, heavy as a corpse. Shield, armor, helmet, tools, 3 days' rations, nearly 30 kilograms strapped to your back. You feel the leather straps bite into your shoulders. Your breath is steady, not from comfort, but from habit. This weight has become your second skin. Around you, thousands do the same, each man wordless, each gesture rehearsed 100 times before. No chaos, no wasted motion. Every soldier a cog in a colossal machine. A centurion passes. His vine staff taps against his palm. He watches you lift your shield. He notes your stance. One mistake, one buckle unfastened, one strap loose, and the staff will cut across your back. Because the march is not just about reaching the battlefield. It is about proving you are Roman.
The horn sounds again. The column begins to move, slow at first, then steady, like the pulse of a giant heart. You fall into rhythm, step by step. Sandals slap the dirt. Dust rises into your mouth. The man ahead of you is so close you can smell the leather of his shield. Your world shrinks to the back of his head, the beat of his stride. Left, right,
left, right. Hours blur. You do not think, you endure. The sun climbs higher, sweat runs into your eyes, but no one breaks rank. No one speaks. The only voices are those of the officers, shouting commands, correcting pace. The rest is silence, broken only by the music of movement. The pack digs into your shoulders like claws. Your calves burn. Your lips crack with thirst. But you know better than to complain. The Romans called their soldiers muli Mariani, Marius's mules, a nickname born in the reforms of Gaius Marius, who demanded every soldier carry his own load. No longer would Rome rely on servants to haul its supplies. The legionary himself became beast of burden. And if you could not carry the empire on your back, you were no soldier of Rome. This cruelty was deliberate, because when the ambush came, and it always came, only the strongest would survive the storm. And so you march, not because you want to, but because Rome commands it.
The column was never just travel. It was preparation for war. Every soldier knew that the endless rhythm of sandals and shields could be broken at any moment by blood. And nowhere was this truth sharper than in the nightmare of Teutoburg Forest. September 9 CE. 3 Roman legions under Publius Quintilius Varus marched deep into Germania. Nearly 20,000 soldiers, auxiliaries, and camp followers, a serpent of iron winding through the endless trees. The march begins as always. Scouts ahead, cavalry on the wings, the baggage train creaking under the weight of empire. But the forest is not like the open fields of Gaul or the sunlit roads of Italy. Here, the trees lean close, the paths twist like veins, the ground sinks into sucking mud. Rain begins to fall. Shields grow slick, sandals slip. The serpent of Rome stretches thinner, weaker, more vulnerable, and the Germans are waiting.
It begins with a scream, then another. A javelin whistles from the trees, and a legionary ahead of you collapses, throat pierced. In a heartbeat, the rhythm shatters. Mules panic, wagons tip into the mud. Men stumble, shields colliding, formation breaking. From every shadow, Germanic warriors erupt, howling like wolves. Spears rain down, axes flash. The column, so perfect in order, now writhes in chaos. Varus shouts commands, but the column is too long, too tangled to obey. The serpent of Rome cannot coil into defense. It thrashes and bleeds. For 3 days, the forest swallows the legions whole. The Romans fight bravely, forming squares, raising shields, but every step is hindered by trees, by mud, by fear. One by one, cohorts are cut down, their eagles captured, their soldiers butchered. The baggage train becomes a graveyard. The march that once carried Rome's glory now carries only death. When it ends, 15,000 Romans lie dead among the roots. The survivors are enslaved, sacrificed, or left to rot. And Varus, humiliated, broken, falls on his own sword. The march was Rome's greatest strength, but also its greatest weakness. When discipline held, it was invincible. When terrain broke it, when the serpent stretched too thin, Rome could bleed like any mortal army. And yet, Rome learned. From the ashes of Teutoburg came tighter formations, better scouting, sharper discipline. Because every Roman defeat was carved into the flesh of the empire, and from that scar, Rome grew stronger. You are Lucius, a young legionary of the 3rd Legion. Your pack digs into your shoulders as dawn breaks. Your sandals are caked with mud. Your back aches. And yet beside you, Gaius, your Contrabenium brother, adjusts his helmet with a grin, wiping sweat from his brow. "You'll drop your pack before me," he mutters. You don't answer. You can't. The march demands focus. But the joke, the small defiance, sparks a warmth in your chest. Even here, in the heart of exhaustion, in the shadow of death, human bonds endure. Hours turn into miles. You share water with the man behind you, break the crusted bread in half for the one ahead. Silent gestures, ritualized and necessary, because every man matters. Every man's survival is tied to the other. When the vanguard reports movement in the woods, you feel a surge of fear, not for yourself, but for Gaius and the others. The forest is beautiful and deadly, green shadows concealing spears, axes, eyes that watch from every branch. You tighten your grip on the gladius, and he does the same. At midday, you pause briefly. The legion stops only long enough to eat a thin porridge, posca in your cup, salt and vinegar burning your throat. You look around. Thousands of men move in harmony, a tide of humanity and steel. Some are veterans, scarred and silent. Some are new recruits, trembling with the weight of their packs. All of you share the same fear, the same pride, the same unspoken oath: to live, to march, and to carry Rome with you. Night falls. By the campfire, the wounded are treated. Lucius sees the blacksmith stitching a deep cut on a comrade, sees the medic cleaning blood with vinegar and honey. He smells the bread baking in small fires, hears the low murmur of men praying to Mars, hears the soft breathing of the soldiers and mules as they settle into tents. And in that moment, exhaustion and terror all around, you feel it, a bond stronger than steel. Because you are not just a man, you are part of the legion, a piece of a living machine, yes, but also a human heart beating in rhythm with thousands of others. Even in the silence, even in the terror, there is loyalty, there is hope, there is Rome. The legion marches, but time marches faster. Lucius, now older, feels it in his bones. The weight that once shaped him now crushes him. The rhythm of the march is no longer a song of precision. It's a memory, a shadow of what once was. The roads change. The forests that once hid enemies now shelter ghosts. Veterans fall silent, their bodies carried back to Rome or buried in foreign soil. The young soldiers who replace them have not yet learned the unspoken rules, the invisible choreography of the march. Even Rome itself begins to change. Emperors rise and fall, borders shift. Campaigns grow longer, harsher, less forgiving. Where once the legion carried the city with it, now the city strains to carry the legion. The perfect machine falters in faraway lands. At the edges of the empire, Britain, Germania, Dacia, a legionary left behind could vanish without a trace. The enemy learns, adapts, grows. The march, once invincible, becomes a gamble. Yet the decline is not just physical. It is cultural, emotional, moral. The bonds forged in the fires of early campaigns fade. Discipline becomes rigid. Joy disappears, and the terror of failure replaces the old pride. And still, the legion marches, because Rome commands it, because men like Lucius, scarred, tired, loyal, still shoulder the weight of empire. By the end, the beast of flesh and steel is no longer as perfect as before. It has lost its edge. Its rhythm falters. It is remembered, whispered in stories, etched into stones of distant camps, a shadow of its former glory. Yet it never truly dies. Its legacy endures in every army that learns from its discipline, in every fortification that copies its layout, in every march that carries more than men, that carries history itself.
The Roman legion no longer marches across Europe, but its heartbeat can still be felt. Modern armies, whether in Europe, Asia, or the Americas, still echo Rome's lessons: precision in logistics, the vital separation of vanguard, main body, and rear guard, the discipline to carry one's own burden, the ritual of camp construction and security. Engineers today study the Roman castrum as the blueprint for fortifications. Military academies teach the same principles of movement, formation, and reconnaissance. Even beyond warfare, the legacy survives. In emergency response teams moving through disaster zones, in supply chains that must flow without fail, in any human system that relies on coordination, trust, and discipline. And yet, there is a question that lingers. What does loyalty mean when a soldier can endure more than the human body seems capable of? What does courage mean when silence, patience, and endurance become as deadly as any sword? The Legion teaches that greatness is not only in the battles fought, but in the endless, grueling march, the daily test of flesh, mind, and spirit. Lucius, the young soldier who once walked 12 kilometers each day, is long gone. The forest of Teutoburg, the distant hills of Dacia, the deserts of Judea, they remember him and thousands like him, each step a testament to human endurance, loyalty, and the will to carry the empire. Rome may have faded, its soldiers may have died, but the march, the rhythm, the order, the heartbeat of discipline marches on, invisible but eternal. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all, even when men and empires are gone, their methods, their sacrifices, and their courage can still guide us.
The sun sets, the legion rests, the fires burn low, the last mule is fed, the shields are stacked, the tents are folded. And in the quiet, the empire breathes. Step back from the column, look at it as a whole, and you see not just men, but a living, breathing organism. A machine of flesh, steel, and willpower. It marched across rivers, forests, and deserts. It built cities from the ground up in a single day. It carried Rome itself on the backs of men like Lucius, who lived, endured, and sometimes died for something larger than themselves. The Roman legion was more than a war machine. It was a testament to discipline, loyalty, endurance, and strategy. It was a story of human ingenuity and courage, and a reminder that even the smallest actions, a step, a dig, a shield lifted, can echo through history. So, what would you do if you stood at the rear of the legion? Could you carry Rome on your back? Could you endure the march, the weight, the silence? Or would you falter, forgotten in the mud of history? If this journey moved you,
if it brought the rhythm of Rome to life in your mind, then walk with us further. Subscribe, leave a like, and join the legion of history lovers who keep the past alive. And as always, may Mars guide you in battle, may discipline shape your steps, and may the memory of those who marched before never fade. The march ends. The story marches on.